Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, back again for another edition of Jason and the Gentleman. And joining me, as always, to do this show is the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman Josh Hill. Josh, we took a week off because obviously, you had some business to take care of the previous week, and then you had, a nice little vacay with your wife. So, we let you enjoy the spoils of your hard work. But first off, before we get into anything, congrats on the win back at Bellator 272 back a couple of Fridays ago here. Obviously, the fight went pretty much perfectly for you. But, you were telling me just off air before we got going here, obviously your opponent missed weight by 4 pounds and fight nearly got scrapped.
Thanks, man. And yeah, it was. I would say it was about 5 minutes from being canceled. To be honest, yeah, it was unexpected because I didn't, for the life of me, think he would miss weight. He doesn't look overly like that big. Like I've fought bigger guys before, And yeah, I weighed in, and then the commissioner's like, "Oh, good job. Your opponent missed weight by 4 pounds." I was like, "What?" I'm like, by 4 pounds, man, like not even close, right? Like I can understand, if somebody, fucks up and misses weight by, I mean, I don't understand it, but it happens, a half a pound, whatever, miscalculator, just whatever, but 4 pounds, that's crazy. So, yeah, it was about 5 minutes from being canceled. So I'm obviously happy we got to fight, and that didn't happen. And yeah, man, it was pretty crazy.
So obviously, to get the fight not canceled, did you have to agree to get the commission to up the purse or for the cut? Because obviously you said 20% wasn't worth it. And you got what, 30%, right?
So I ended up getting 35%.
35.
Yeah, 20%, like I said, if somebody missed weight by 0.5 pounds or something, that's okay. Then great. I wouldn't have even said anything. But 4 pounds, I was like, no, man, that's bullshit. And, I always harp about there should be more penalties about people missing weight, especially by like that. Right. So I said, they're like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, yeah, well, I want 50%. I just called it out. I said, give me 50% of your purse. And then went back and they're like, no, we can't do that. And I'm like, well, and then, I brought it down to end up like 40, and then we'll give you 25. I'm like, no, this is, like I said, I don't want to be a douche, but like I did my job, and you miss weight by a lot, man, like not even close. So, and then it got down to crunch time, and they're going to cancel the fight. I was going back with my manager, and I said, I'm like, hey, well, 35% or, whatever the money ended up being. I'm like, he's either going to get nothing because he didn't make weight, or he can take this and we can fight, and he's going to get, he's going to be able to still make some money. So I kind of had the upper hand, obviously, in the negotiations. So anyways, we agreed on that, thankfully. And the fight went on, and yeah, thank God it did. And we got it done in time. Well, I didn't want to not fight. I've been away for 3 weeks training for and put in so much energy and money and time. And so I wanted to fight. And I liked the matchup, but at the same time, I wanted to, penalize him for missing by that,
Well, good for you for sticking to your principles, because a lot of guys would just, whatever the commission says for said, percentage that you'd be getting, they just whatever, fine. Because obviously the end goal after you've made the weight and done all the sacrifices you need is to fight. But, you were willing to not let that fight, happen because you wanted to make your opponent own it for not doing his part of the duty.
Yeah. And I like I said, I really wanted to fight. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to end up taking whatever. Cause I want to fight, and they know that, right? They don't want, I don't want to go there and just not fight, so, but I'm glad that I ended up getting what I did. And like I said, man, and it's actually, it makes a difference at that level, because you're actually getting a decent amount of money back, right? But if you're at some regional show and some guy does that shit and he's making 400 and 400, it's like, what do you get extra, a few $100? It's not worth it, right? So that's where I think it should be bigger penalty. That's why I think weight misses, especially of that magnitude, should be a shit ton of your purse, because it's people just kind of do it. And usually I don't know the stats on this, but I would imagine more times if not, the guy that does come in heavy usually ends up winning.
Yeah, I think it's this they use that extra weight to their advantage, especially in your weight class, which is one of the
Yeah,
lighter ones where you're kind of already missing the weight. You're already, 4 pounds over the 135 pound or 136 in your case limit, and then you'd
yeah.
be even heavier coming in, right? So pretty much a lightweight coming in. So they tend to use that to their advantage. But obviously, you made your opponent pay for missing the weight, getting that awesome second round KO, TKO, and how'd that feel? Because obviously, I know how bad you wanted to get a finish, and it's one
Mhm.
thing to want something, but when you actually wanted it and you got it, like that had to be like such a huge weight off your shoulders, Josh, for going forward into 2022 with Bellator.
For sure, man. I mean, I started my first two fights in Bellator. I had good performances. Both wins over solid guys. But I didn't get the finishes in them. But whatever. Obviously, I want that, but shit happens. And then with Stott's fight, I just like again that was a shitty fight. And I lost a decision. And so I don't want to lose two in a row. I never have in my career, and I don't want to start that shit now. And I really did like this matchup. And it was one of those fights where, like, what we said that we were looking for actually played out exactly how I saw it, and I've had a couple of those fights in my career where it just played exactly how I thought it would. And this was one of them, man. And just, I knew the first like 2-3 minutes of the fight was going to be annoying just because he's very like that jumpy and he's going to be able to kick heavy, snappy, and like getting his timing might be a pain in the ass and shit. And then, but once I did get it, I was able to capitalize on it and yeah, it just worked out. That step in overhand right into what timing his distance coming in. It landed on the money and got a nice knockout.
You landed it also in the first round. Didn't get all of it,
Yeah,
but you landed it. But then the second time you had the opportunity, you took advantage of it.
yeah. I remember the first one I hit. Like I think I hit higher up on his head though. But that one, the second one was right on the chin. So it was like perfect positioning there. So yeah, that's what we look for, man. Like over and over repetitions of just like that timing and waiting for it. I mean, timing, like as far as timing that shot in particular, I've always had pretty good timing with that one. I do it all the time sparring, but yeah, with that style, I was just like, I'm gonna land this on this fucking guy.
Well, you did, and obviously, it was a pretty notable KO on that card. Obviously, kind of got overshadowed what went on in the main event there with
Yeah,
Pettis and his spinning back fist, but that KO that you got, obviously, as I said, got a lot of traction. And, one of the guys that your last opponent, Rafael Stotts, was pretty much cage side and got to see it. And I know you guys are on the same management team there with Sucker Punch.
yeah.
You guys get to spend a lot of time, hanging out after the show. So, I mean, that's kind of cool as well, where, you obviously you're in the same management, but, two opponents get to hang out like that. I think that's one of the beautiful things of the sport.
Yeah, man, it's all good. And 98% of the guys in this sport, man, they're all good dudes. You know what I mean? And we're all very alike. So we actually went out for dinner the night of weigh-ins. All the Sucker Punch guys, because there's like
Yeah.
5 or 6 in the cart.
Yeah.
And Brian took us all out for dinner, so I got to sit down and we just shot the shit for a while. And then they're at the fights obviously because they announced the Grand Prix, and then we afterwards we were drinking at the bar and just partying it up. But yeah, man, it was fun just to hang out with everybody and yeah, it was a good time.
Well, obviously, that brings me to my next point. Bellator announces the Bantamweight Grand Prix,
Yeah.
which we've been talking about for pretty much feels like all year that it has to be the weight class that they're doing it. And not only are they doing it, but one, an 8-man, what the heck is that? Too much talent in there to be 16. But what's it like for you, though, that you're the number one alternate in this tournament with a lot of talent, but now if something happens, which tends to happen in these tournaments, you're the automatic fill-in guy.
So I started cluing in when I saw Stotts was coming down. Well, I thought maybe I saw him coming. I actually didn't think anything of it. I thought because he might get the title shot.
Yeah.
He's probably the number one contender. So I didn't think of it. But then I saw Patty Mix there, and I was talking with him, and then I saw Archuleta, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why are all these guys here? And then when I sat down with Stotts, and he said, he goes, they flew me out. And he wasn't even 100% sure. He goes, I think we're doing like the Grand Prix. I think that's what they want to do. And then, of course, that's what it was. And I saw, the other guys are all there. And yeah, so I found that out at the dinner. I was like, fuck, man. Like, why are they, and I knew, like, because he named all the guys in it. And then literally I'm the next one as far as the rankings go, like I got pushed out because of, there's the champ +7, but Horiguchi stepped in and to kind of push me out. So I was like, fuck, that sucks, man. But then, I got the nice win on the main card, which was nice. There's more eyeballs on it, and yeah, I'm the alternate. And yeah, you're right. A lot of times these, between injuries and all this COVID shit, like a lot of alternates do get in there. So that's cool. The only thing is, like, I just hope it's like I don't have to go there and weigh in as an alternate and like maybe fight, because they do that, you know what I mean? And because that means I got to do a full training camp and act like I'm fighting, and then go to the weigh-ins and then weigh in, and then just nothing happens and I'm not fighting, right? So I know you get paid for it, which is nice, but like it's still like I want to have that mindset of like I know I'm fighting 100%. I can prepare for this mentally as well. But I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. It's a roller coaster.
I just don't understand. Maybe you can get some clarity of it, but like, why not a 16-man tournament? There's so much depth in this division that you'd think a 16-man would make sense. I mean, the featherweight one was a 16-man, and as I said, Bellator's Bantamweight division has more depth, and I just thought it made more sense. Obviously, the cream of the crop are in the tournament, but I just thought if anyone's going to get a 16-man, it's got to be 135 in Bellator. But maybe you can get some clarity on that. Nonetheless, I mean, at least, like I said, you're the alternate, though. Obviously, you want to be in the tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they could, the talent, they absolutely could do a 16-man with all the guys they have, like between all the guys in the top 10, and plus there's guys that are on the outside too that are in Bellator that could definitely be in there. But I would imagine probably just because the length of how long it took doing the 16-man, because the featherweight one took a long time, and I know it got kind of interrupted with the pandemic, but yeah, it took a long time to do with the 16. But yeah, that would have been cooler, man, for sure. Just bigger the better kind of type thing. But yeah, it's an 8. Yeah, we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, doing your best, Matthew McConaughey from Dazed and Confused. It would have been cooler if you did put me in the tournament, but hey, you are
cooler if you did.
You are the alternate, so that is a positive, I guess, something to look out for. In that, obviously, your performance kind of granted. Were you told you were the alternate already, or was it actually the KO that put you in there as the alternate?
I mean, I would imagine I was already, just due to, if you're gonna go by like the rankings, I'm the next guy there. But I didn't know for sure. And then they told me, I found out, Big John told me in the cage. I guess Coker tweeted something.
He did, yeah. He put you, because of that KO, you were automatically the #1 alternate in this Bellator Grand Prix for Bantamweight. And obviously, you got to be there for that Bantamweight title fight, Josh, where, we talked about it beforehand. It was a pretty big fight, one of the biggest fights Bellator has done. But, I mean, it was the beauty of MMA, because Horiguchi just put it on Pettis for pretty much, 3.5, almost 4 rounds. And then out of nowhere, Pettis throws that head kick and ducks out of it with the spinning back fist and knocks Horiguchi out cold to retain the title. And it's really solidified. Pettis is now no longer Anthony Pettis' little brother. He's now a solid champion, especially knocking out the former Bellator Bantamweight champion and a current Ryzen Bantamweight champion in Horiguchi, one of the best fighters in the world. So, I mean, what was it like to be there to see that fight live? Because what a moment that was with the finish.
I was actually in the hotel room afterwards. Yeah, by the time I got done with all my stuff, we had just missed the Kennedy and Sanchez fight, and then I just like showered, and Suri was actually fighting as well.
Yeah.
So we went and we put, like, I had my laptop and Lyndon's laptop, and put them both, and I watched both of them actually at the same time. But yeah, watching that, I was like, man, Horiguchi's killing him, man. Like literally, he won 99% of that fight. Like he was taking him down, outstriking him. His movement was, he couldn't catch him, couldn't get his rhythm. And then yeah, one little second, and then how smooth he fucking rolled underneath the head kick, and only to be caught by a spinning back fist afterwards. Kudos to Pettis, and for still having the fight in him after getting beat for that long, and not looking for a way out or just kind of wiltering away. But yeah, what a crazy finish, dude. I felt bad for Horiguchi, but that's the sport, man. That's how crazy it is.
I felt bad for Horiguchi, especially seeing him get stretchered out of the cage, which is never what you want to have. But he seemed to be okay after the fact, but you just don't want to see. Just the visual was something you don't want, nor weren't expecting. But man, it's like now that technique's going to be developed for anyone throwing a head kick. If you miss the head kick, exit out with the spinning back fist, because you never know what's going to happen right now after what Pettis did there to Horiguchi.
Yeah, you see that. Time and time again, a lot of people guys do that. Especially if they miss big on the head kick, they'll kind of throw that just to make sure the guy's not coming after. But that one was just like beautifully timed and just right on the money, man, right on the chin. Perfect.
It was perfect. It was a perfect way to end Bellator for 2021. As I said, I think if those are the cards, it was a really good. It was a good main card. The minus the Spike Carlisle fight where he kind of came back and out of nowhere in the same kind of situation where he was losing big and he came out and got the finish. And I think Bellator should scoop up Spike. He's been very entertaining since getting cut from the UFC, whether his fights were in Cage Warriors or he had another fight in LFA. But get that. But yeah, like the rest of the prelims was a lot of decisions, but then it was like, the main card opened and obviously, you go out there with the knockout, then Jeremy Kennedy has an amazing performance against Emmanuel Sanchez. And then, of course, Horiguchi ends it. And I think if those are the cards going forward, I think Bellator's really turned a corner. It was a nice mix of some established talent, both outside of Bellator and guys they're developing, as well some of these young up-and-coming prospects as well. So I like the vision for Bellator in 2022.
Yeah, man. It was good. And it felt so good to fight with fans again, man. Honest to God, I didn't realize how much I did like it and missed it. It was way better, not even close.
Wait, so it's been a while since I've thought about. Yeah, you hadn't fought in front of fans since the start
February
of COVID.
2020.
Since COVID started. Wow.
But yeah, I fought the month or a couple weeks before the COVID hit, and that was in Oklahoma. And then, my next two fights after, it's been, so what's that? Yeah, almost 2 years. Yeah.
Almost, going, because this February will be 2 years since then. So, that's crazy. I didn't put that together. Maybe it's because we've called some shows now with fans back that I hadn't thought about that. But, I mean, that's obviously going to be a huge benefactor. And clearly you can just, vibe off the energy that they bring to you.
Yeah, and I did. And I kind of forgot how it did that. You know what I mean? And, I guess I've been the bad guy, I guess, in other places where I've been like the foreigner coming in, and I mean, he's American, but I felt like I had more fan support there than him, even though being the Canadian there. It was great, man, feeding off the energy, and then obviously to finish it just felt, I mean, it would have been great either way, but with an empty stadium, like my last two fights, it wouldn't have been as sweet. But the fans, it just made it a whole much better.
Well, of course, you are the hometown favorite. I mean, you practically live at Mohegan Sun every time you fight for Bellator now. So hopefully now that you're the alternate, you get a fight not in Mohegan Sun. As great as it was for you, and you had a lot of your good luck charms there. Obviously, Lyndon was in your corner. He wasn't there the last time in the Stotts fight. Your wife was there, which that's obviously got to be a big thing. And Mauro Ranallo was on the call. So you had like three good luck charms going for you.
You know what the other one was?
What was the other one?
Kerry Hatley.
Get him. Yeah, get him to ref.
I've had him 3 out of my 4 Bellator fights. I've had him, and I've won all 3.
Kerry Hatley, L for love.
I love Kerry, man. He's the man. Love that guy.
Well, I didn't put that one together, but I was like, Oh, Morrow's on the call. I think Josh will have some good success with that. I mean, I think every time he's called your fight, you've pretty much won.
Except for the Stotts one.
I don't think he called the Stotts one. I can't remember. I swear he didn't call that one. I think that was
Was it Josh?
No, Josh was on the desk and he did do analytical work, but I swear that was like Sean Grady or whatever.
Was Morrow not there? I can't remember now. I can't remember.
I think he wasn't there. I think he was there for like a Showtime boxing show the next night or something.
Okay, well maybe you're right. I can't remember now. But yeah. Anyways, Morrow, I love Morrow, so yeah, he was there.
Did you get to chat with him?
Just a little bit. At the weigh-ins or the mock weigh-ins, we were shooting the shit a bit, and actually, I was talking to him because he always comes over and talks about like my great uncle because he's like, I remember when I was 6 years old watching him, and he was, Guy Mitchell, and they, all this, and so yeah, we're talking. And then he was talking about WWE just a little bit, and he was saying like it ruined a lot of his memories working for them. Instead, it was like the most toxic environment he's ever worked in.
I'm not surprised, and the stuff that he had happen against him was beyond awful, and I don't know how. It shows his professionalism to keep working there and trying to make it work. But man, he got treated the utter worst there.
Really? Yeah. I didn't get into the specifics of what it was, but he just said it was fucking brutal. So.
Well, he seems happy now doing stuff with Bellator and obviously Showtime Championship Boxing.
Yeah, and I love having him there, and I enjoy him on the mic. I think he's great.
And I just looked it up. He did call your Stotts fight.
He did, right? I thought so. Yeah.
So he did. So I don't know why I thought it wasn't him. I thought it was the replacement that used to be the guy that calling for the Bellator, whose name always escapes me. He's the play-by-play guy for like the radio for the Celtics, but he's done a lot of stuff with Bellator recently. But yeah, it was Morrow. So, well, I mean, obviously, Josh, it was great to see you get the win in that fashion, and really just kind of advance your career because you're no longer just a guy at 135 in the division. You're now like a player at 135 in the hottest division in the sport.
Well, man, it's like. This the sport's like you're only as good as your last fight, you know what I mean, and that's 100% true. And I was riding high off of the Perez one, and then going in the Stotts one, it was like, oh, this is potential number one contender fight. Winner could get a title shot, and then I lost, and then I was now, I mean, I get in the top 10 still, but like and then a nice win here. Kind of puts you back up there again, but it's all good. I just want to build on the momentum, now, and that was actually my last fight on my contract, so technically I'm a free agent. So we'll see. I mean, I like Bellator. I like what they're doing. I would assume that I'll re-sign with them, and yeah, I want especially with the Grand Prix opportunity there, that'd be a chance to fight for $1 million. That's huge, right? So I want in on that, man.
Have they been in negotiations with you and your management to try to lock you down for another 3 or whatever fight deal?
I haven't yet. No, I just literally haven't done anything since I've been back home. So I'm sure we'll be getting on that very soon, and I'll talk to Brian, and we'll decide.
Because all of a sudden, Josh, there are options out there. Even though you are an alternate in a pretty big tournament for pretty big plans for Bellator, but I mean, obviously there's PFL. Eagle FC is now in the mix with all these US shows that they're doing, and
PFL doesn't have bantamweights.
As far as we know, I mean, they could, I guess, unless you know for sure.
I don't know for sure, but it's the last. I've never had it yet. And then, yeah, this Eagle FC thing. Is that Khabib's?
That's Khabib's promotion.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess they got some Russian money backing them, I guess, right?
They do, and they're making a couple U.S. stops in 2022. Obviously, January 28th is their first show in the United States and in Miami. So apparently they're supposed to sign Kevin Lee, which doesn't really surprise me, but it may surprise a lot of people with some of the options Kevin Lee had, as we talked about him getting cut the last time we did our show. But yeah, I mean, you seem to like Bellator, so obviously don't want to force your hand, but I think you'll end up back there. But obviously negotiations still have to happen.
Yeah, Yeah, I agree. We'll see. I mean, I'm down for a lot of things, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, Bellator, I do like what I've the 4 fights I've had with them. I think it's been great, and I do like the trajectory they're on. I like what they're doing. So yeah, we'll see what happens, man.
Well, we'll wind that down. And obviously, I saw you got the money. I'm sure you probably spent a little bit more on some fun on your trip out in Boston, even though it was 2 days.
Not much time out there, dude. Yeah, we were out there. I mean, it was fun. It was like we only had really 2 days away, but yeah, it was good. I've never been to Boston, so it was cool to see. It was like a busy city, but like the streets are because they're so old. I think they're so small. So like driving around there is a nightmare. I guess any big city is a nightmare driving around it. But
It pretty much is, yeah. Any big city is a definite nightmare. And I saw you wind down your night with an ice cream. Is that something you always do, Josh?
I'll eat anything. Like I don't have a specific thing, dude. I'm a glutton, and especially on like fight nights after I don't know how many beers deep we were afterwards. Just I'll eat anything that's in front of us.
Well, fair enough. And obviously, wishing you the best in your career as we get to 2022, which is crazy enough, just like a few weeks away, Josh, which is where has this year gone?
I know. It's yeah, this year flew by, man. It's I would like to get I want 3 fights minimum next year. That would be ideal. I only got two. Last 3 years in a row, I only had 2 fights, so I like to get three. That would be cool.
Well, let's keep that on the docket, and hopefully that goal can be fulfilled for next year. But as we transition from all of your success, Josh, let's transition to the success of the last UFC pay-per-view of 2021, UFC 269, which was quite the card. Obviously, 2 title fights. One where a champion pretty much solidified that they are a serious champion and can no longer be taken as a joke or doubted for their heart in Charles Oliveira. And then, you're one of your tough alums from Tough 18, Julianna Pena, puts off one of the biggest upsets in the history of mixed martial arts. And just that momentum and that moment was just insane as a whole. I mean, we had Sean O'Malley kick off the pay-per-view with a big win, but let's start with obviously the main event, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier. First of all, that first round was insane. Like, what a pace that those two put out there. And then it was just Oliveira was able to just get in there and make Poirier slow down a bit and took him down. And then once in the third round, once he was able to take the back, that's just nightmares. And he was able to sink in the choke and choke out Poirier.
First round was crazy, the pace. I don't know if they would like to do that for 5. There's no way. I don't, that was crazy. Awesome. Great pace, great action, great technical fight between the two guys that I really like. I enjoy watching a fight, and they're good dudes. And then the second round, Poirier with that he had an omoplata and then he rolled out, and then Oliveira followed him and came on top, and then Poirier just locked up guard from the bottom, and the commentary was talking about it, but he just blew a whole round there. You know what I mean? And I understand, like you're saying, not want to open your guard up and get past and get the back taken, which ultimately happened the next round. But at some point, like you're just okay. You lost the round, but you're also giving this guy confidence, momentum, and you're also carrying this guy's weight. Wearing on your gas tank too. So I don't know. That's just not something that would be my playbook. You know what I mean? I'd be looking to scramble up, just create something. You know what I mean? And then the third round, you got the back and standing, and that guy's obviously jiu-jitsu is amazing, Oliveira. So not a guy you want on your back, and kudos to him, man. The guy's I've been a big fan for him for a long time, and you're right. I don't think he gets a lot of the same respect for some reason because he's had ups and downs throughout his whole career and he's been there so long. But so is Poirier, and people are still probably because Poirier beat McGregor and all the eyeballs are on him. Right, he did that twice. But yeah, it was nice to see. Like I said, he won the fight. Like I like both guys, so whoever won, I wasn't like, I really wasn't rooting for anybody. I like both guys, so. But it was a great fight up until the finish.
Yeah, the one thing Poirier said that I thought was kind of interesting at the post-fight presser was his whole goal in that fight was not to let us get his back taken. As you alluded to in the second round, he was just having the closed guard, and then eventually he got his back taken and choked out. And it's one of those things where if you think don't let this happen, you kind of just manifest it enough where it becomes reality. And I don't know if he could have changed anything. I thought he had a good first round, obviously, but it's one of those things where sometimes the mental aspect just kind of takes over you.
Something I know very well, and this is, if you're a golfer and you're at a par 3 and there's water right next to the green, and you're like, I don't want to hit it in the water, don't want to hit it in the water. Chances are you're smacking that right in the water, right? And it's the exact same thing here. If you worry too much about something that you don't want to happen by your opponent, that is going to be something that you ultimately probably succumb to or get in that position up, right? You have to go out there and think like, be prepared in every position, and especially if if the guy's good at taking your back or something like that, work that shit, of course, work your escapes, works your not getting there, work your scrambles out, but you can't say I can't let this guy take my back, can't let this guy take my back, because then you're not focused on other things and you're being tunnel visioned into that, which will ultimately ruin your game and take away other things. So I think that probably had some play into this, that and the fact that Oliveira is just fucking good, man. So yeah, I think that was it was over analyzed and over thought, I think, by Poirier.
Yeah, Darren Till said the same thing too in his last fight against Gilbert Burns, or not, excuse me, Stephen Thompson said the same thing about his last fight at Gilbert Burns. All he kept thinking was, don't let myself get taken down. And what happened throughout the fight? He got taken down pretty much every round. I wasn't focusing on what he could do. It was more what not to let his opponent do. And I guess if you just think about that too much, you're taking away from all the hard work you've done in camp and just letting that one little thing kind of sit in your mind's eye for too long. But to Oliveira's credit, he got it done. He gets the biggest win of his career, a huge title defense. And this is a guy that, when he started his UFC career, was 10-8 in 18 UFC fights. And now he's like got in this massive undefeated streak, beat some of the best guys at 155 pounds. And now he gets Justin Gaethje at some point in 2022, which is kind of the fight that Gaethje did want. But I don't know if Oliveira's shown he can take big strikes, but I don't know if he can take. Not that I'm doubting him, but I don't know if he can want to take or mix it up with Gaethje or anyway like that. But I think just at least for Oliveira's sake, he's still this amazing story that continues to get better, and his performances seem to grow each and every time we see him.
Yeah. And yet, stylistically, if I had to pick in that fight, I'd probably pick Gaethje, to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, good for him, man. He's a guy that's been there, done that, paid his dues, and it's nice to see him get some good recognition.
What's crazy too about Oliveira is this time last year, we knew Khabib had retired. The belt was going to be vacated. So we knew that Chandler was going to be in the mix because he was the new free agent toy. We knew McGregor was going to be in the mix because he's Conor McGregor. Poirier, because he's, who he is, and the fight, especially the Hooker fight and all the fights he's had, the guys he fought. But we thought Oliveira was going to be the one that was kind of shifted to the side because he didn't really have that name recognition or some of the guys he had beaten. And now he's the champion, and he's the one that kind of dictates 155. It's kind of crazy how this sport just works out.
It's just how it goes, man. You never know. It's what's so crazy about it. What's exciting about it. You just, you never know what the hell's going to happen. And it's unpredictable.
And it's, I guess, in the same kind of mental thing as we're talking about in a fight, what not to do and that becoming a negative. For Oliveira, this is a guy that's just believed in himself that these opportunities would come. And I think that is, just as important because, when things aren't going your way with whether it's wins and losses or just not getting the opportunities, you just kind of get down on yourself and just doubt. But he just believed that he was always going to get these opportunities. And now he's the champion and proven to be the best lightweight in the world right now.
Yeah, man, it takes a strong mindset. A lot of people don't see that and what goes into that. It's not just something you just, you lost, okay, you'll be good next time. No, there's a lot of mental, prep or mental workouts, basically, just to get you back to where you want to be, where you need to be to compete at an optimal level. And that there's a difference between champion mindset and just regular mindset, and he possesses that.
Well, speaking of proper mindsets going into a fight, that would be the co-main event with Julianna Pena, where this is a girl that's been talking pretty much since March that she wanted to fight against Amanda Nunes, that Amanda was kind of scared, ducking her, didn't want to fight her, and just believed that she could go up there and get this win when everyone in the MMA community kind of laughed at her. But she went out and weathered the storm in a first round that really didn't look good against her, but then Nunes got tired. It was Pena that was kind of dictating the striking, which we really haven't seen, and then got the fight to the ground and had the most awkward tap. It was kind of this weird situation where I wasn't sure the fight was over, but it was over because one of the replays showed that Nunes clearly did tap. But Julianna Pena pulls off one of the biggest upsets in the history of mixed martial arts, up there with Matt Serra against George St. Pierre and Holly Holm over Ronda Rousey. And, good for Pena. I just thought it was a tremendous performance and tremendous ability in herself to will that kind of performance out of herself.
Yeah, good for Julianna. Good, kudos for her. What she lacks in skill set, she does. She has a lot of she'll just keep coming. She has no quit. She's got a good gas tank. She's very tenacious, and she can just get you tired. You know what I mean? And she does that well. Now that being said, you know what I thought of when I watched this? I thought of Space Jam when the Monstars come and take all the talent from the players while they're playing basketball. And then all of a sudden they can't dribble a ball. That's what I thought would happen with Amanda Nunes in this fight. She went out the first round and almost looked like it was just toying with her, to be honest. And then at some point she just starts brawling in the second round right away, pretty much. And the striking was god awful. It was horrible. And that's not like her. Usually she's a lot more crisp. She's more technical. She didn't move her head once. She didn't move her feet at all. She was throwing a lot of arm punches. It did not look like her anyways. So I was just like, what the hell's happening here? You know what I mean? And then I knew as that progressed, I'm like, she's done. She's gassed. This fight's over. And I was just like, what's going on? So she said too, in the thing, she mentally checked out. And you can definitely see that 100% in that fight. And then same with the tap too. There was no hooks in. You know what I mean? If you're sitting head high on somebody's back and you got under the chin, yeah, sure, you can choke somebody out. But anybody that knows anything, just roll forward, roll to your side. You're not going to tap to that. If you didn't want to. But she would just look for a way out. She was done. And I don't know what it was. If it was something before the fight or for something during, if it's just she just had a bad night, maybe, possibly. But it was very unusual.
Yeah, the way after the fight was called, Pena's the champion, Nunes took her gloves off and her tape off so quick, to the point I thought she was gonna retire. I literally thought she was gonna do that, and it would have made a ton of sense to me. I mean, think of all the pressure she's had being, a double champ, up to this status that she's been marketed as the greatest champion of all, greatest women's fighter of all time. And that weighs on you a lot. You got to kind of outdo yourself each and every time you go out there and fight. You're fighting in a weight class you haven't fought in for a while. I don't know how maybe the cut affected her a little bit. And she's had other things she's focused on, like being a mom. So I don't know. I agree with you. It didn't look like that. I thought for sure she was going to retire, but she seems very interested now with getting the time off, getting some stuff organized to go get a rematch, and she's clearly going to get an automatic rematch because of who she is and how long she's been at the top in the UFC. But man, yeah, I'm with you. It was not what we expected from Nunes, but that's not to take away from Pena, because I think Pena believed she could do it. she may not have the striking power of what a Nunes does, but she's got heart, and I think that does add something to it. And I don't know what would happen in a rematch if they had that fight, and a couple hours later, how it would go. But I think Pena being champion makes it very interesting in not only the women's bantamweight division, but women's MMA as a whole. Like Shevchenko is clearly now like the number one women's fighter in the game right now.
Yeah, it definitely threw a wrench into a lot of things, for some aspects, and then it kind of opened things up for others. And yeah, everybody always is. Everybody's the GOAT. Everything is the GOAT nowadays. Every person, always the best ever. He's the best ever.
Yeah.
I think it gets thrown out way too much, man. It's like I kind of like ad nauseum hearing that kind of shit, especially with the women. Before it was Cyborg, right, and then it was when she beat Cyborg, she's the GOAT now, and then Valentina, but because of Nunes, she was, what I mean? It's just like they're all good, man. You know what I mean? And shit happens. Anybody can kind of beat anybody at night and any given night. And like, who's to say if Cyborg and Nunes had a rematch, it would go differently? It could very well go differently, right? So it's just, yeah, I don't know. Good for Julianna, and it kind of mixes things up a bit right now and adds a little bit more drama if it was rather than just Nunes getting another win and being so dominant. So it kind of sparks that division a little bit again. And I wonder if the cut, maybe because she hasn't fought at that for so long, at 45, that affected her, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting too that the UFC kind of laid their hands out because they showed Kayla Harrison on camera. There was this fan cam footage or whatever of Kayla kind of being upset that Nunes lost, because it seemed like maybe UFC signs Kayla and then Amanda and Kayla fight at 145. I know they're teammates, but it seems like they'd kind of been distancing themselves over at ATT to have this fight. But now that kind of throws up some free agency, wrench for the UFC and getting Kayla Harrison, because Kayla's got options as well, whether it go back to PFL, there's Bellator, especially with the Cyborg fight out there. And we don't even really know what the status of 145 is in the UFC, but if she were to sign there, like, they probably have that Nunes fight.
Well, who else would it be?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, they got 3 other girls in that weight class. I don't even know.
Well, and one of them just retired too in Felicia Spencer. So
there's another one. Yeah. So who knows, man? Yeah, because the Kayla can't make 35. I don't think. No. Right? There's no way.
Well, she's competing at lightweight, and she struggled to make 145 for that fight in Invicta.
Yeah, she ain't making 35 then. So I don't know, man. It's either you go back to PFL and just beat up lesser talent and make more money, or you fight in the UFC just to fight Nunes. Pretty much, that's it. Or you Simon Bellator, and there's a few fights there. The big one being Cyborg. So those are your options.
Yeah, I think Bellator's got to put the full court press on trying to find a way to sign her. That'd be a huge thing for a division that's has some talent in it, but you really put the cherry on top at women's 145, where you can really market that division if you get Kayla. But I mean, she's still weighing her options, and it's nice to see these free agents kind of dipping their toes in each and around each promotion, and not just like, I'm a free agent, I'm going to sign here, and not kind of enjoy the process.
Right. Yeah, they should. You shop around and see what you can get, right?
Exactly. Well, the other interesting fight, there's a couple of interesting fights in that main card. Obviously you trained with Cody Garbrandt ahead of this fight, his flyweight debut. I thought flyweight was a solid move for him. I thought he'd have a lot of success there. He seemed like he could made the weight pretty easily. But I don't know, man, like Kai Kara France got a first round TKO against him. I just don't know where we go next with Cody. Like, he could go back up to 135, but I don't know. Like, I feel like the damage he's taken from those Dillashaw fights and stuff kind of just worn on him.
Yeah, man, I feel for him. It sucks. He was feeling, like he said, he was feeling great. The weight cut was no issue. He said he had it down very good, and he had that nutritionist done with him, and he was walking around light. So I think the prep was all good. It just, I don't know if it maybe, I don't know. I mean, sometimes shit just happens, but in that fight, he was very, usually he's a bit more aggressive. He likes to kind of come forward, dictate a little bit more, and he didn't do that at all in this one with France. And I noticed that when we sparred a bit too, he was a little bit more like hesitant, and I just thought maybe because just stylistically with me, maybe he's looking for something. But then he did it in the fight, and I thought maybe he's waiting. He's waiting, kind of pulling him in, and then he's gonna explode because he is very fast, and his hands were so fast. But yeah, it just kind of never came. And then he got cracked with that big overhand, and then dropped, and then he got the takedown. And I was like, hey, good, just like hold him here, and kind of let's use our wrestling, because he has good wrestling too. I like to see him utilize that more. And then he just kind of it looked like he was good because he like got back to his feet and he was like kind of like calling him on. But I think that's just like a primal instinct. When you're hurt, you just like get that warrior spirit. You just want to like just brawl it out. And but yeah, he just got tagged again and then dropped again, and just it sucks, man. I feel bad for him. I was hoping this would be like a big turn the corner, a different chapter in your career where I think you could do a lot of good at this weight class, because it's the talent pool is a lot shallower than is at bantamweight. So like a big win, I think with one win he would have got a title shot probably.
I think for sure he would have got the title shot if he won that fight against Kai. There's no way he doesn't. Like a former bantamweight champion. And who was upset about the result? Brandon Moreno, the current champion. He was very upset because that was a big payday that he's now going to be out of.
Yeah, for sure, man, because it's, he could make a big splash there. He's a big name and former champ. And so, that kind of just, again, threw a wrench into a lot of plans. So I don't know what he plans to do after, like, now, if he's gonna stay there at flyweight and continue that, or go back up. He'd probably stay down there, I would imagine. Just because if you go back up, there's like murder's row, and it's gonna take a long time to get back into title contention. At flyweight, I think if he wins 2 now, he could possibly get a shot. But it sucks for sure. Hate seeing that to a friend, right?
Yeah, I think he gets one more kick at the can at 125, and I think it's make or break for him. Like I said, I think that division needs someone like him with the name recognition, being the former bantamweight champion. And when Cody's back's against the wall, like, he does come through and time to time like that. So I think he can stick it out there, and it'll be interesting. But I mean, Kai France, he's the one that got the victory and now puts himself really in the mix to be the next contender after the trilogy between Moreno and Figueiredo happens in January. So even Kai France said because he's going to have to stick around in the States, can't go back to New Zealand until mid-January with how their COVID restrictions are, that he wants to be the alternate. And I think good for him to put his name out there as being the alternate.
Yeah, why not, man? You can do that and you're there already and you stick around another month, then absolutely.
Yeah, so we shall see what goes on with Kai France. And obviously that division depends what happens in January, January 21st, with the trilogy between Moreno and Figueiredo. But, another guy you train with, Josh Emmett, he looked great in his return back after all that time off from the knee injury. And, fought a real tough guy in Ige, and he dropped him a couple times. So that power is still there. And it was nice to see Emmett get back in there and just kind of really look like he didn't miss a beat from all that time off.
Yeah, for sure, man. It was good to see him back, and I'm super pumped that he got the win. I did a lot of rounds with him too, prep for this, just because it's similar size to Ige. And I was worried how his knee would hold out, just because you never know, right? It's been a while, and then he like re-injured it, and he had to do like more rehab on it, and it's been a long process for him, but everything went good, and he fought a tough fight. I think he lost the second round. He won the first, and then I think he had a beautiful put the foot on the gas in the third and kind of dictated, and that's what really won him that fight. And it was good to see him back and get the W.
It was, and especially, they didn't give him an easy task against Ige.
No.
really didn't miss a beat. His power was still there. His movement was really good. And he really kind of, I think, surprised Ige a couple times in that fight with just, how strong his power is. It's one thing to talk about when you feel that power. It's definitely a little bit different. So once again, nice to see Josh Emmett back in the mix at featherweight. But a guy that's still in the mix, a rival of Team Alpha Male back in the day, Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz he's still got a lot of gas left in the tank at bantamweight and looked unbelievable. He kind of had some moments in that fight where it turned into a brawl against Pedro Munoz, but then Dom just does what Dom does. He just calculates what you're going to do and picks his spots and comes away with a very impressive win. And, 2-0 since coming back this year in the UFC. And he's still a player for fighting for a title down the road at 135.
Yeah, man, I'm happy for him. He was some serious danger in that first round. Got dropped like twice and was wobbly there, but he did a good job of getting to where he needed to be to get his bearings back, and then kind of slowly turn the fight over and found his rhythm, found his his movement and his range, and he was able to kind of just basically outpoint, outstrike, and outmaneuver Munoz for the rounds 2 and 3, and got the decision win. So yeah, it's good to see. Good to see the old dog still on top. Guys like him and then Aldo and still doing it well, man. That's awesome.
I really hope they make the Aldo Cruz fight at some point in 2022. The former bantamweight champion in WEC versus the featherweight king in the WEC. Please, for the love of God, the MMA gods have to make that fight somehow come to fruition. But I mean, Dom's problems for anyone, just his style. He's just he can be someone tough to calculate. Will calculate you, but when he wants to go in there and strike, he's one of the best strikers in the division that I don't think a lot of people really give him credit for.
Yeah, he doesn't have he's not a knockout artist. He doesn't have that. One of the main reasons he's not is because his movement. He's never stationary or planted. So when you're always moving, you don't have that be able to kind of sit on it and pivot on it and really put the power behind it. So that's why I think he doesn't have that that one punch ice power, but his movement and just he tags guys and he's gone. He tags guys and he's gone. He tags guys and he's gone, and he does it well, man. And it's hard to get a rhythm on that, and it's hard to read it. And I'm very much like a kind of Floyd Mayweather-ish of MMA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Where he uses what the whole point, the sweet science is hit without being hit. Yeah. So stuff like that. And you know what?
He's very big and tall for a bantamweight too, and has that range. So he uses it. He does it well.
I mean, and despite having all those setbacks with the knee injuries and what have you, this is a guy that's still, as we're seeing in combat sports, the older you are, it's done a death sentence. He's 36, which isn't that old at all. And you look at the light heavyweight champion in the UFC, he's a 40-year-old, and Glover Teixeira. And I think Cruz definitely has enough talent, enough, solid health right now, and enough of the mental game to really make a run at 135 in the UFC.
It's crazy that how I was just talking about this with somebody, but the ages now of professional athletes, you can be a lot older and enter your prime a lot later, or continue to compete a lot later than you could 20 years ago. You know what I mean? Or even less. It's crazy to how that. I wonder what it'll be like even 25 years from now, if it's going to even continue like that, or if we kind of peaked out. I don't know, but it's cool to see.
It's definitely cool to see. It's the medicines get the medicine, the training,
the rehab, everything.
Everything's just getting better, so that helps extend athletic careers, and we'll see a lot of these guys a lot longer on our screens, which is great. But I mean, especially in a sport like combat sports, where you have a very short runway of what you can accomplish and make the most out of, and a lot of these guys are still extending that runway as each year progresses, which is great to see, because they're proving a lot of people wrong and kind of changing the narrative of what can be accomplished in professional sports and in mixed martial arts. Kind of done breaking down the card, but just want to give some notes. Obviously, Tai Tuivasa, a heavyweight that's really taken off, not only because of the shoey, which I think is a big factor with him, but he's been able to put some wins together and really become one of the more known and marketable heavyweights in the UFC heavyweight division, because that's a big win against Augusto Sakai. And this is a guy that he had a 3-fight losing streak back in from 2018 to 2019. And since October of last year, he's now on a 4-fight win streak, and all getting it done with finishes in the first, and this one got done early in the second round. But a guy that's really changed his narrative. And I think it's one of those things with the mindset too. The Shuey has just changed his life.
Yeah, he's the modern day Mark Hunt, in the cage, really. His antics and his personality definitely help. It's hard to not like the guy. He's pretty, wild and pretty funny. So yeah, it's cool. I like watching him fight, man, and I enjoy his antics afterwards. I think he's great.
Yeah, he's definitely got like a party atmosphere with him. But when it comes down to that cage door closes, he can get it done. And he's got, as you said, that Mark Hunt-like power. Those guys from Australia, New Zealand, they have insane power. So there's that. Bruno Silva, a guy that's won, all his 3 fights in the UFC by KO, TKO, impressive form. Andre Muniz, another big win for him, a submission win. This is a guy that submitted Jacare in his fight before this Eric Anders fight. So, the skill level that he has. And my last point really on this card is Aaron Blanchfield, who is a 22-year-old in the women's in the women's 125-pound division at flyweight. And she put it on Miranda Maverick, who's another prospect. But it's one of those things we've talked about before, where the level of athlete that's competing in MMA, to be just 22 years old and that skilled, where there's so much room to grow, is just crazy. Like, Aaron Blanchfield put herself on the map with that win against another top prospect in Miranda Maverick, but she's only going to get better. Like, she's seriously going to probably be a 125-pound champion at some point in the UFC.
Yeah, you're going to start seeing this more and more often now. You know what I mean? Because these kids have been starting to train at 10 years old, or even earlier now. So by the time they're 22, they've been training for 12 years, whatever, 15 years, and it's crazy. It's just how it is now. You're gonna have these killers that have been training their whole life and on all different disciplines, and just the evolution of the sport, man.
My last thing on this card, actually, is I looked it up. The first fight, Jillian Robinson, Priscilla Cachoeira. Obviously, Jillian Robinson goes out there, gets the submission victory in the first round with actually a second left in the first round. But I think the biggest story coming out of it, Priscilla Cachoeira trying to eye gouge Jillian Robertson when she had the rear naked choke on. 1, completely dirty. And 2, that has to be a fireable offense. I mean, talk about a double whammy. You miss weight and then you do something like that. You can't have someone like that in the UFC, or let alone in MMA.
Yeah, I mean, the weight miss, I don't like that. But I mean, it's dirty for sure. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's you're about to lose. You're try to do anything you can just to get yourself out of that situation. Those primal instincts come and kind of kick in, and I know it's not right, but should just kind of you do everything you can to survive type thing. It's like grabbing the cage. It's you don't really think about doing it. You just do it because it's your reaction, or you know what I mean. But it is dirty. Yeah, it's nasty, but
it's a full-on Ric Flair eye gouge that Rick would do back in WWF or WCW. I understand you're being a dirty player here, but we can't have that, and especially in a fight where you hear I know there's a choke on and you're trying to do everything you can, but you hear the clapper. Your corner's got to be telling you, just hold on, because the round's going to end and you're going to get out of it anyway, and you're going to still stoop to that. That's a bad look. Now, the UFC wouldn't comment on anything. They obviously, Dana hadn't seen it, so nothing's been done with her. But I think
I hear the clapper. If I hear the clapper, I'm going to sleep if I don't make it to that. You know what I mean? If it's a choke, you know what I mean? If I got 10 seconds, I'm getting out of this or I'm going to pass out. One of the two.
Well, I think maybe I don't know. Obviously, you don't want to lose. Do everything you can, as you said, but definitely find a way not to eye gouge your opponent and make it look like you're not really an ethical fighter. But then again, easier said than done when you're not in that position. So now if it was the streets, though, 100%, that's legit. Do what you can.
You go for that first.
Yeah, yeah. Low blows, anything. If this is a street fight. But I mean, unfortunately, it's not. It was sanctioned by a commission there, so can't have that. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I thought this show was one of the better UFC pay-per-views we've had this year, and we've had some good ones this year. So it'll be interesting where we lay that down for the year end of where the best shows were. But yeah, all in all, it was more nice to get back with you. Obviously, glad to see you made it back safe from your trip to Connecticut/Boston. You've got a big win. Your career is advancing, just like our show will advance for only a couple more weeks because we got one more week this week of big MMA events. UFC has a show, Unified has a show out in Edmonton. And there's just pretty much every promotion that hasn't had a show is having a show this weekend.
Yeah, Tarps Off.
Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley.
Yeah. And then, there's the UFC too, the last one, right? There's the.
Yeah.
I know Elkins is on it. I don't know the main. Oh, that's Lewis, right? Lewis, is that right?
Who Darian Elkins is fighting?
No, Elkins is fighting on it, but the main event is Lewis, right?
Oh yeah, Derek Lewis and Chris Dawkins. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And Stephen Thompson, Bilal Muhammad as the co-main.
Oh right, okay, yeah, that's good. Yeah, so there's a lot of MMA this weekend, and it's pretty much done ski for a couple weeks anyway.
Which is kind of nice. I mean, a little break, especially over holidays, spend the time with the family, watch Home Alone, watch Christmas Vacation.
I've seen Home Alone when I was at the fight. We probably watched it like 6 times. It was just on repeat, both of them. Well, the first 2 anyway.
They're great movies.
Of course, yeah.
They're the best. Home Alone 2, a little bit better in my opinion. But
no, I don't. I mean, it's very good. Don't get me wrong. It's one of those sequels that you could argue. I just still think one's got to beat them.
Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from, and obviously one has the heavyweight title for what it drew in the box office, but I mean, I discovered the Home Alone series through 2, so I have that. I mean, I even saw 3 in theaters.
I actually might have saw 3 as well in theaters, I mean, 3 is not even on the same wavelength of the first 2. It's actually not bad, but it's not even close to those 2.
No, I know nothing can stop McCulley. And his greatness.
Pesci and Stern.
Daniel Stern. Oh my God, what a bump machine in those movies. Bricks, glass on the feet. Crazy good movies that you can definitely watch. And I may go watch Home Alone or Home Alone 2 after we're done here, Josh. So anyways, we'll be back next week to break down pretty much the final week of MMA before taking it down, winding down and heading into a new year, Josh, with new goals, new ventures in not only for yourself, myself, but the sport of MMA going into 2022. So with that, it's my broadcast partner, gentleman Josh Hill. I'm Jason Hagholm. Peace out. We'll see you all next week.